Welcome back, my beautiful humans, to another episode of If I Die Tomorrow. I'm your host, Nicole. I'm really glad you joined me again today. Last week was interesting, and it's amazing when we change up the question from why to when. It holds a different weight. And before we dive into today's topic, I'd like to ask you to just take a moment. I don't usually like to review and rewind, but I'd like you to slow down a minute, look backwards on your life for just a second. And when you think about things and you think about how you got to be where you are today, this very moment, listening to this, what comes to mind? For most of us, it is the milestones, the highlight reel, the big career shifts or college graduation or internships or learning the new skills. It's also about the sacrifices we made, the late nights, studying or hustling, grinding things out and getting up after maybe only a few hours of sleep and doing it all over again. Building that life, building that dream. We also have those moments where it's just, we picked ourselves up by the bootstraps and, rubbed a little dirt in it and moved on. We love a good self-reliance story. I mean, makes you feel safe, makes you feel strong, and everybody likes to feel safe and strong. But today, I actually want to talk about something a little different. My hair is in my face. It's going to drive me crazy. I am probably got dirt on me from helping wind up our hose. All that condensation, and then you get all that dirt on it, and okay, whatever. Back to this. But I want to talk to you about the small, quiet moments. Talking about the teacher who knew you were struggling and maybe gave you a little bit of extra attention, or maybe even a little bit of extra time for the assignment without making a big deal out of it. Or the stranger who held the door open for you when your hands were full and your mind was completely overwhelmed. The friend who didn't offer advice, didn't try to fix anything, just sat with you while you cried. The mentor who said one sentence that they probably don't even remember what the sentence was, that completely shifted the trajectory of how you see yourself and the line that you took for your life to go. Or the person that's trying to help you with a misunderstanding or a forgotten task, and now there's added layers of stuff because it's either late or someone else tried to do it. We call these small moments. But the truth is, they aren't small at all. They are the invisible building blocks of our lives. Lately, I've noticed a phrase popping up in conversations. I've noticed a lot of things increasing on social media, and sometimes even in quiet internal monologues that we carry around. Whenever the topic of helping someone, or whether it's giving them grace, extending a hand, or supporting someone through a really hard season, a sharp, defensive thought comes in for a lot of people. Not everybody, but a lot of people. Nobody ever helped me. I had to figure it out on my own. Why should I make their lives easier? We've all heard those. And in some ways, maybe we've all said them. And then sometimes we've been really cruel about it, and maybe we've said it out loud. And you know, when you make those statements, it sounds tough, it sounds independent. But if we're honest with ourselves, and if we drop our ego for just a minute, the statement is almost never true. When someone says, nobody ever helped me, it's usually not an accurate accounting of history. And we throw it around like a defense mechanism or to prove a point. It's actually born out of survival mode for a lot of people. You've been hurt or abandoned, or you've been forced to carry a heavy load from a young age, believing it is me against the world. And that becomes a shield to help keep us from becoming disappointed. And it gives us a little buffer, lets us be guarded just a little bit. A few episodes back, I talk about forgiving the person you used to be. And we explored how our younger selves built these protective walls to survive. And that phrase, I did this all on my own, well, it's one of the walls. But holding on to that lie actually comes at a cost. And when you convince yourself that you were never helped, there's a couple of things that happen. And yes, this is a broad overview. One of the things is you actually erase the quiet grace that had been extended to you your entire life. 2, you close your heart to being the grace that someone else needs today. If you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that we did a talk about the archive of the ordinary. Yeah, maybe some of my show titles need a little work. The idea that our lives aren't defined by the loud victories, but by the small, quiet, everyday moments that we overlook. If you open the archive of your own life right now, can you really say you made it entirely on your own? And I know these are generalized, and yeah, I can already hear some of it, but did you give birth to yourself? Did you build the road you drive on? Did you invent the language that you speak? Did you grow every piece of food that is on your table? And if you didn't, did you go plant it? Did you go harvest it? Did you drive it to, again, general broad sweeping, but you get the point. Even on the days when it felt like the world had completely turned its back on you, someone, somewhere, held a door open. Someone gave you a chance. Someone listened. Someone noticed that you were exhausted and let you leave early. Someone showed up for you, even if it was just for 5 minutes, to give you a breath. We forget these moments because they don't demand credit. Real help rarely wears a neon sign. Real help is quiet most of the time. Shows up as patience, even when we're difficult. It shows up as grace when you made a mistake. Shows up as a quiet recommendation in a room that you're not in, privy to a conversation you're not supposed to hear. When we ask ourselves, what's our when are we going to stop holding onto our scars like armor? And when are we going to start holding on to gratitude for the light that it is? For me, the answer has to be now. Because if today were your final chapter, do you really want your story that you leave behind to be, I didn't need anyone and no one needed me? Or do you want your legacy to be deep, humble recognition that we're all walking each other home? So how can we shift the mindset? Some of you may not want to shift the mindset. Others, we can break down the wall of I did it all by myself. And it starts, simply enough, with two things. Things that we talk about quite often, actually. Gratitude and humility. You know, those things are pretty powerful. Gratitude allows us to look back and trace the threads of help that have been weaved through our entire lives. The big rescues and the small forgotten gentleness. Gratitude serves not just yourself, but others. The other one is humility. Humility gives us courage to admit that we couldn't have done it alone. And that doesn't make you weak. Admitting that you didn't do it all by yourself doesn't lessen your effort. It doesn't lessen your strength or even your resilience. It simply honors the truth. And sometimes we don't want to acknowledge the help, not just because of our own defense mechanism, but because we have a hard time recognizing it because it wasn't the help we wanted in the form in which we thought we needed. Saying that, though, doesn't mean that there still wasn't help. When you realize how much unseen help you've received, it actually can change how you look at the person in front of you, or the person who needs help and hasn't been able to find the courage to ask for it. This world makes it so easy to harden our hearts and to think that everyone is trying to pull some sort of scam somewhere. And while yes, that does happen a lot, it is not with everyone, and it is not in all situations. Sometimes we just need some discernment and grace. When you see someone struggling, you stop saying, nobody helped me, so why should I help you? Instead, you start saying, someone gave me grace when I needed it most. Especially on days I didn't deserve it. And other days when I didn't even notice it. But today, I need to pass that grace along. That is how community is built. That is how the real collective isolation that so many of us are walking around with is broken. So today, take a moment, 4 or 5 minutes, stretch as many moments out as you can, and do an inventory on the unseen building blocks and helping hands that you've had throughout your life. Think of one person who offered you a small kindness years ago. A person who took a chance on you for a job. A friend who sat with you in the dark. Or a stranger who smiled at you when you felt completely invisible. Hold space for them today. Especially if you can't call them or thank them now that you've realized the grace and help that they have actually shown you. Because at the end of the day, none of us are self-made. We are beautifully human. We are held together by the quiet, unrecorded moments of grace given to us by people who asked for nothing in return. I know that there are some that kindness is not really kindness, it's a transaction, and they keep a journal or a log of all the times they've helped somebody so that, when they need it, they can call it out. But for the majority of us, when help is truly given freely, it is done wanting nothing in return. I will say this. Seeing the world from someone else's shoulders doesn't mean you grew. And telling the story without them in it doesn't make you tall. If today is the end of your story, let that story be acknowledged by grace, not isolated pride or ego. The people who lifted you up, big or small, do they know that they mattered to you? If not, maybe you should pass the grace along and acknowledge it with a thank you. I want to say thank you for being here today, listening. No, it wasn't the funniest. But, as always, be kind, be grateful, stay humble. Until next time.